This is At the Extremes.
Beloveds, we're back. Sergey, we're back. We're going to start off in Montana. As someone who has been to the great state of Montana, I can say, you know, it is a incredibly gorgeous place. I don't know if you've ever been to Montana or not.
I have, and it is.
Where did you go?
Incredible. Well, we went to Yellowstone.
Okay.
And then we basically road trip from Baltimore to Seattle and back. So
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we stopped at the Grand Tetons.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
We got into Yellowstone for free. They were just waving us in. So that was pretty neat. Just going down. Southwest is amazing. If you ever get to go to Moab or see the arches down there, it's really incredible. Lander, Wyoming is awesome. So there's a lot of really, really awesome places.
Did you go to Bozeman or?
I don't even know. We just ended up just parking by off the side of the road and just camping.
Oh wow.
And then we parked at I think then we stayed at the Grand Tetons, and then we drove over to Yellowstone.
Oh, brilliant, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you know this about Montana, but historically speaking, at least, it's been considered like a purple state. Like the state has typically been splitting their ticket between Democrats and Republicans for a really long time.
No, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, up until the Dole-Clinton election, and then at the federal level, they just went hard right. So
Bob Dole says,
yeah, Bob Dole, man, what a character.
Dude, one of the things that was crazy about Bob Dole was how he would just fall. Do you remember that video of him just falling off the stage at a campaign rally?
Yeah. And people were like, could you imagine if that happened in today's political climate? Oh my God.
Yeah. Or Joe Biden falling up the stairs 5 times.
Oh man, I'm so glad that he's exited the race.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to our story. So since Clinton and Dole, it's gone reliably red, right? The current governor of Montana is a Californian-born, East Coast raised, liberal, Vietnam protesting kid. Who grew up in outside of Philadelphia in New Jersey. So he, he's this liberal-minded kid in his youth. He decides to go to college and get a degree in software engineering, and he makes millions and millions and millions of dollars in California with this. I forget the name of the software, but he eventually ends up developing another software after he sells that company to Oracle. Basically, this guy's got a pretty interesting story, background wise. But once he started running for once he started getting involved in politics in Montana, he starts to really take a hard Donald Trump grifting right turn. And it's really actually pretty disgusting, in my opinion. Not because of his religious beliefs that we're going to talk about, but because of just how much he grifts for the right, if you know what I mean. I
just was kind of lost in my thought for a second of just people that make millions and millions of dollars. And I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to somebody. It was either yesterday or the day before that said that if you made $3,000 an hour from the time that Jesus, was born to now, you would still have less money than Jeff Bezos.
That's insane. That's an incredible number.
$3,000 an hour. Or it was $75,000. I don't know. It was something insane.
That's an incredible number.
Well, and just, again, how much money a lot of these guys have. And especially you think of software engineers, especially during the Silicon Valley time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and this is when this guy was coming to, his prestige as a developer was during the peak of Silicon Valley. So he makes this company or co-funds this company. It gets sold to one of the big, Oracles, Deloitte's, all those kind of guys. And then he's like, all right, well, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make another software, but I'm going to do it in Montana. I want to take my kids out there. I'm getting tired of the LA, San Francisco grind. I want to make sure that my kids got a big wide open spaces to go. So he goes to Montana.
The big sky state.
Yeah, big sky state. So he establishes this company called Right Now, and basically it's like a targeting ad company, I believe, and he ends up selling it to Oracle. So It's now Oracle. It's worth, millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Jesus.
But the one thing that can be said about this company is that it hires and like keeps like the economy going in Montana. So like while he,
So it's not outsourced India.
no, yeah, like they've got tons of employees. It hires a really large part of the state in Billings and then also in Bozeman. So they've got a lot of people who work for this company. So he's definitely like he's a Montana guy. Just turns out that he's a real piece of shit. So his name is Greg Gianforte. Forgive the last name there if it's wrong, but I don't give a fuck. So he's also tied to this software firm that's really like hyper religious and traditionalist. So the company's called Communio, and he's not like a direct developer for them, but he's really closely tied to them. Communio, as they put it, they're a nonprofit industry that trains and equips churches to share the gospel through the renewal of healthy relationships, marriages, and the family. Not a bad initial statement, right? On its face. Our objective is to help bring you more souls to Jesus Christ by evangelizing and discipling relationships and marriages. From the beginning, marriage has been the central to God's plan for humanity. Communio serves you to make marriages central to your church. Communio is not another program. Rather, we equip your church with proven strategic framework, 21st century data tools, and a ministry game plan that helps you put members of your church and those in your surrounding community onto a growth journey towards healthier and holier relationships. That's where they lost me, that like second bit. But
all I hear is we're going to sell you a bunch of Christian shit and we're going to sell you ads so that we can make millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah. You're not too far off there, actually. So the Catholic, you're not too far off. So I found an article in the Catholic Herald, which provides a little bit more context.
You can't trust the Catholics.
Well, I was going to say they actually seem to be totally fine with this. So according to the Catholic Herald, quote, what do going to an amusement park, joining a gym, and buying TV dinners all have in common? According to predictive analytics, they're all signs that someone's engaging in activities that may be heading towards a divorce. For years, companies have used data about consumers' purchasing habits to predict other things, such as how they might vote or what other products they might buy. Communio, as an Alexandria-based nonprofit, is using that information to, quote, save marriages. I don't... Yeesh. It's like having like a period tracker. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
Like it's weird to me. Just for like I know that companies, every company that you do any business with on your phone gets your information and your data. I know that. But something about like the way that this is framed is just a little bit icky to me. It's an ickier version of that. You know
like
what I mean?
super invasive.
It feels more invasive somehow, even though like all companies are doing it. For some reason, like this just doesn't feel right to me. So, if you're looking at porn, you're going to get an ad to save your marriage. If you're buying at Tyson's frozen dinner, you're getting your marriage must be in trouble. So, they're going to get you with a targeted ad somehow. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it seems like a weird algorithm.
Yeah. It doesn't. It's just it's kind of it's just icky. And what this reminded me of was that story about Mike Johnson and his son.
Oh God, yeah.
Covenant Eyes, remember that? Like that whole...
The app that holds you accountable.
Yeah. And like he was like, yeah, my son's my accountability partner. What?
So if I watch porn, he can see and he gets notified immediately.
Dad's watching Three Ways again. Oh man, I gotta go talk to him about the Lord.
Or nudeafrica.com with the lieutenant governor that's over in North Carolina.
Yeah. Plenty of good things happening. God. When they say we're not weird, it's things like this that I go, dude, this is weird behavior. Like you are weird. If you have your son monitoring your porn activity, you fucking loser. Jerk off like in private like the rest of us do.
You won't get hairy palms.
Yeah. Oh man. So back to Greg though. Since Greg's been in office in Montana, he's been arrested for assaulting journalists. Which was publicized and praised by the Donald Trump campaign in 2018.
Get him out of here. No.
We'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you have the act
Speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last guy that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here.
Oh my
The
God.
last guy did the same thing. You were the guardian?
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
You'd like me to get the hell out of here, I'd also like to call the police. Can I get you guys' names?
Hey, you gotta leave.
He just body slammed me.
You gotta leave.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Like the audio alone is enough for you to go, yeah, that was a pretty violent interaction.
And the guy was just asking a question.
Yeah. Like if I remember the story correctly, he ended up getting like probation before judgment or something like that. And
Nothing because he
yeah.
can just pay for it because he's a
Yep.
multimillionaire.
Yep, because he does things like campaigning and donating to places like the Glendive Dinosaur Fossil Museum in Bozeman that teaches how to. Well, actually, I'll just read from their website. The Glendive Dinosaur and Fossil Museum is the largest dinosaur fossil museum in the United States. To present its fossils in the context of biblical history. The museum also sponsors fossil digs in the Badlands close to Glendive, giving participants an opportunity to experience paleontology firsthand as they learn how to identify, collect, and interpret fossils from the biblical creationist point of view. It's kind of TikTok.
I'm tired of gatekeeping this. I'm going to show you a
This is not
website
the
that
video.
school doesn't.
32.
For the last 200 years, Christians have been extremely confused about where dinosaurs fit into the Bible. See, the word
Wow, it's like to
dinosaur
read
wasn't
my
made
head.
until 1841. So for most of human history, these creatures are called dragons. Did you know dinosaurs not even in the dictionary in 1891?
Sergio, the way that your Frau burrow, it became very bristly. Have you ever seen that one cartoon with like Yosemite Sam where his eyebrows are just going up and down? That's exactly what's happening right over there.
For most of human history, they were known as dragons. Now, dragons are mentioned in the Bible 34 times. Here's one of the oldest pieces of pottery on planet Earth. It's a piece of slate from Egypt, first dynasty of United Egypt. It shows long-necked dragons. Why would they put long-necked dinosaurs on pottery 3,800 years ago? There's a cylinder seal showing what appears to quite obviously be long-necked dinosaurs. This Roman mosaic shows two long-necked dragons fighting or kissing. Now that would be necking. Wow.
Bad joke. That was a terrible joke.
I just imagine him as a creeper.
Oh, well, yeah.
How did the Romans know about dragons in 200 AD? St. George is famous for slaying a dragon in 275 AD.
A famous myth.
We've got 7 coins in our museum on loan. They're silver dollars from 1500s to 1600s. Real silver dollars. All of them show somebody slaying a dragon. It was common 400 years ago. Everybody knew about slaying dragons. Of course, you got to slay the dragon. You know, that's just standard procedure.
I mean, I know that when I hear about like people slaying the dragon, they're normally talking about like some kind of demon that's been haunting them or some kind of thing that they're carrying with them. I slayed my own personal dragon, not an actual physical dragon. And when, you know, mythologies are set up about, you know, dragons. Anyway, your response, Sergio.
I mean, now I guess we just have Imagine Dragons.
Oh. Oh, man, Sergio. I thought I was going to let that guy have the worst joke in this.
I mean,
It was all right. It couldn't be worse than that.
necking. Oh.
Terrible joke. He bombed terribly in that room. Yeah, I have a hard time with this, I think, because of just how much overwhelming proof there is that dinosaurs and human beings, we would have died out immediately.
Well, and there's also science behind it that shows when,
Yeah.
you know, through fossil records and stuff like that we were.
No, you're fooling yourself.
No.
You're fooling yourself.
Science isn't real.
Yeah, no, you're fooling yourself. So Greg, because he's a philanthropist in Montana, he and his family set up a family foundation in 2004. The Gianforte, I always fuck up that saying that.
Gianforte.
The Gianforte Family Foundation has donated millions of dollars to local businesses in Montana and advocate groups throughout Montana. Organizations like the Montana Family Foundation, which is an affiliate of Focus on the Family. If you're one of my evangelical evangelical brethren, you know that name out the gate. The Alliance of Defending Freedom, which should sound familiar to you, and the Family Research Council. It's important to note these connections because the MFF, the Montana Family Foundation, is a registered 501c4, which is different from the nonprofit status, which means that nonprofits can't operate in political spheres at all, but 501c4s can. And that family foundation ended up donating Greg $2 million for his campaigns, and his wife was the director at the MFF as well as the head treasurer for a while.
There's got to be a conflict of interest and
$9
a little
million,
bit of
yeah.
nepotism towards that. And
Well, when you hide the money under so many shells, like the shell game is so large and so expansive, and our government allows for it to happen.
well, that's what I was just going to say too. With donations, I mean, they're not donating because they're getting a bunch of that money back
In tax returns.
and tax write-offs.
Yeah.
So it's not, they're not spending millions of dollars
At all.
No.
We're actually paying for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not fishy at all. Our system works exactly how we hope it would.
Where really, really rich people get richer. And
Yeah.
we have to make up the difference.
We pay them to get richer.
Yeah.
Love that.
They deserve it.
Yeah.
It's hard being rich.
Man, they worked so hard to be billionaires. Like I've never seen a harder working class of people. It should be noted that the total donations and funding that came to the tune of $9 million for his campaigns and things like that all came from the MFF. So just funnel that money in however you want to, I guess. Yeah.
It's just, I mean, this is just enlightening me more, just how much money goes into politics and how much of what you have to do is fundraise.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why these small, hand-to-hand donations matter so much. Yeah. But, it should be said that, Greg's not alone in this. Like,
No.
the Democrats do it. Other Republicans do it. Everybody does it. It's like doing steroids and bodybuilding. Like, if you don't do it, you're going to fucking lose. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to do it to keep up, which isn't right. But, it is what it is. So back to Greg, though. Greg's a pretty staunch conservative. He wants Montana to become even more reliably red by playing to the hardcore abortion crowd, school choice, parental rights, that kind of thing. He's really into that stuff right now. In 2023, after Roe was overturned by the Supreme Court, Greg signed into law 4 abortion restrictions and signed 4 restrictions into law, including an immediate ban on the dilation and evacuation abortions, which is the most common type of abortion after 15 weeks. The governor's office said other bills signed during the week would include 2 restrictions on Medicaid coverage for abortion and stricter regulations on clinics. So with that, I know that the Supreme Court did strike this down as unlawful. Some of these laws that were kind of signed off in Montana, but this guy's pretty aggressively pro-life and one of those like under no circumstance kind of guys,
So incest, rape.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. Any thoughts on that, Sergio? I know that I'm doing a lot of talking. So.
No, it puts me in my feeling state. Just again thinking how much, with our political system and how little power certain areas of the country have when it comes to really representing what a majority of the people want when it comes to, access to abortion services, is widely popular. And it's really a small fraction that's really imposing all these really, really horrible restrictions that are going to end up, killing women and taking away, their rights to their own body.
Yeah. Couldn't say it better. I think with that, though, let's go ahead and take a real quick break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about the guy who's trying to change Northern Idaho into a kingdom for God. So that'll be fun. But yeah, we'll go ahead and take that break now, and we'll be right back. my God, we're back. We're back. We are back again. Hey, so let's just jump right into it here, because this is going to be this is going to take you from left to right. This is going to pull you. This one's going to pull you, I think. So Northern Idaho, home of the Idaho Vandals, and the new St. Andrews College. The latter of those two is obviously a Christian college that teaches a liberal arts education with a Christian filter, kind of like the dinosaur bones being examined.
It just seems a little bit like liberal arts with a Christian filter. It just seems kind of like oil and water.
Yeah, it's very. This doesn't mix.
No.
Yeah. I don't take issue with people wanting to have a Christian education, but I do take issue with the guy who acts as the school's spiritual authority. I will then introduce you to a guy by the name of Doug Wilson. Doug's an interesting character, Sergio, and he's an interesting character for many reasons. And by interesting, I mean incredibly divisive. We won't be going really deep into this guy. We're just going to touch some of the things that make him a piece of shit, and why we should really be concerned with people like Doug. So Doug's a senior pastor at a place called Christ Church in Moscow, Idaho.
Oh, Moscow.
Yeah, you've been up there.
Mm-hmm.
He's a scion of the Reformed Church, a racist, a Christian nationalist, and a social media influencer, along with a podcaster and author. Think Cody, but far more principled.
Okay.
Principled in that...
I was just going to say, what do you mean by principled?
Principled in that I think Cody could be shaken off of his post as a Christian, and this guy absolutely would rather die. I think this is the kind of guy who's actually committed to like his faith. Like he would die.
He branded a cross on his chest.
Honestly, like I think like if he was like told like if he was given like the ultimatum of like well, deny God in front of me or I'll shoot you in the head, like that, he would take the shooting. Like he's a stone cold psycho, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Christ Church is affiliated with satellite churches around Moscow and Montana and the rest of Idaho, and their membership ranges somewhere between 900 and 2,000 members just in Moscow alone, which is roughly around like 10% of the population.
It's got to be a pretty big population.
Yeah, it's around 10%.
Part of the population.
Yeah. The church members have found their way onto every board, steering committee, charity, every aspect of life in Idaho, in that part of Idaho, is somehow connected with the church and its leadership. Again, I keep saying this because I do know I come from a family of faith, and I don't think that everybody that I grew up with are these types of people. So I don't like have a strong opinion about people of faith who are good people being a part of our government. But when you are a piece of shit, like this guy is, I don't want you anywhere fucking near it. So as we're going to see here shortly, Doug and his ilk think that people are territory to conquer. We have to ask the question, why? Why are people, whether they be atheists, LGBTQ plus, Catholics, why are these people territory to gain? And God, it's bad. Why don't we talk about Doug real quick through the interview that he gave to the Idaho Statesman?
I'm sure this is going to be great.
Well, he says it better than I could ever say it. So this is what he says about the town of Moscow. Basically, quote, this is a blue dot in a very, very red state. And the blue dotters are pleased. He said, our mission is all of Christ for all of life. And if you drill down into that, that means then all for all of Moscow. The church website explains the church's mission further. Sorry. Our desire is to make Moscow a Christian town. It reads, through genuine cultural engagement that provides Christian leadership in the arts, business, education, politics, and literature. Remember the 7 mountains we talked about? Yeah. Very, very similar, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, it is very much this thing. Wilson sees the college town as a battleground, seeing non-believers, seeing the non-believers there as souls that either need to be converted or to be escorted out of the town. His dad, Yeah. That's a curious one, right? Like he genuinely thinks that if you're not Christian, you don't belong in Moscow. And that's, kind of antithetical to our democracy. His dad, Jim, wrote a book after he left the Navy called Principles of War, a handbook on strategic evangelism. And Doug looks at Moscow in the same way, a strategic location to cause losses to the enemy, quote unquote. We're going to watch a clip of Doug real quick.
I'm just looking at the population of University of Idaho. So it's 11,000 students that go there. And I don't know how conservative the University of Idaho is as an institution, but as a state school, you would assume that it's probably has a lot of left-leaning students and population there.
Absolutely. They actually, one of the largest bits of one of the biggest enemies that Doug has in the state is the University of Idaho, the actual university. He's been on campus for a lot of debates and things like that, and they're not exactly like on good terms.
On similar playing fields.
Yeah. He's something. Let's go and watch this clip. Telling the world that he's an arsonist for God.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's on Facebook too, which is like the most like boomer fucking thing you can do.
You're old now, man.
The one thing about Doug though that I actually do appreciate is that whether you like him or not, he's got a pretty good voice.
Really?
Yeah. He's got a pretty good speaking voice. Let me go ahead and cue the clip. God.
Hi, I'm Douglas Wilson. This is November 1st, 2018, and I wanted to explain to you what is meant by this no-quarter November business that we're doing at Blog and Mablog in conjunction with our good friends at Canon Press. What I wanted to do is depart from my usual pattern of being balanced and reasonable. We thought it would be a good idea to try to go through November with a series of blog posts touching on subjects of controversy. The intention is to simply state the truth without qualification and see how the general public likes them apples. I think this is a necessary approach. I think we need to do this because as one of our local football coaches here in the Palouse puts it, we need to find and unleash our inner pirate. And that's the problem with Reformed evangelicals these days. It's not the job of the preacher to be a firefighter out in the world. We're not supposed to be running around putting out other people's fires. We're supposed to be arsonists in the world. So throughout the course of November 2018...
So that's where we'll stop it.
What the
Paint the picture. Paint the picture for us, please.
So we have this guy that looks like he would be a typical Northwest guy with a hat, beard, smoking a cigar, sitting on what it looks like to be a 1970s couch, just having this casual conversation with us while it's on fucking fire. And he's just kind of sitting there while the couch is on fire and talking a bunch of nonsense.
Yeah. So it should be known. So he shouts out a couple of partners up there at the top, one of them being Canon Press. He owns Canon Press. So they're friends at Canon Press, i.e. him. He produces like a new book a month kind of thing. Like it's got to be AI generated. No one writes that many fucking pages a month.
No.
It's impossible. No. Not if you want quality content, at least, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so one of the things I want you to take note of, though, this is actually, he's been doing this since 2018. So that's 2 years into the Trump presidency. Mm-hmm. So now he wants to take the gloves off. He wants to give you the raw, unvarnished, what do people want? This is how they want me to speak kind of way of talking. And he only does it during November. He doesn't do it any other month. It's only during the month of November.
So he doesn't participate in Movember and shave for a mustache?
No, God, no. He would never shave his mustache or his beard. Because that's not what a man would do.
No.
We'll talk about that later. So far be it from me, a nobody in the church, somebody who doesn't know the Gospels, someone who doesn't know any of the Bible verses. But I think Jesus would disagree with Doug on this. Therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. So I think that like how I interpret that is like, yeah, no, you are not just an arsonist. You are actually there to be the firefighter. That's like, you're there to actually build up the community, not watch it burn kind of thing. That's how I interpret that. But anyway,
I mean, what do you know? You can barely even read
I can't read anything.
the passage.
I'm fucking stupid. We're going to skip this break. Fuck you, Sergio. God damn it. I am stupid. I know I'm stupid. Okay. I can't help that. All right. So I told you earlier that Doug's a bigot. I don't want to read you a passage.
I don't know, man. He doesn't seem like the type. He's got a trustworthy face.
When you're sitting next to a couch that's on fire, like, what's wrong with you? So he wrote a piece titled "The True Nature of Slavery in the South." This was written back.
This could never end well.
So I think he wrote this in like 1998. So here we go. Quote, "There has never been a multiracial society which has existed with such mutual intimacy and harmony in the history of the world. The credit for this must go to the predominance of Christianity. The gospel enabled men who were distinct in nearly every way to live and work together, to be friends and often intimates. This happened to such an extent that moderns indoctrinated on civil rights propaganda would be thunderstruck if they knew half of it."
Civil rights, quote unquote.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is directly from the writing. So yeah, he quoted civil rights.
What a piece of dog shit.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a time machine, right, and I was to be like, "Yo, bro, hey, come on over here. I need to ask you a question. Like, you know, your slave master, like, are you guys good? You guys like everything good there?" I do not think they'd be like, "Yes, I feel a mutual intimacy with my master." God, fucking prick. Here's a little bit more from Wilson. "It is not surprising that most Southern blacks, both free and slave, supported the Southern war effort. Many Southern blacks supported the South because of long-established bonds of affection and trust that had been forged over generations with their white masters and friends. They gladly supported the war effort with food, labor, and sometimes fighting. Their loyalty to the principles of the South rivaled and was sometimes even greater than those of some whites."
Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yeah.
My, what a wonderful day.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And what is he citing? Is that just his free thoughts?
This is his free thoughts on slavery.
Cool. So I'm going to make a complete assumption, a really, really false assumption that, you know, African Americans loved being slaves because they were so bonded to their white masters.
I think he does cite some works, but they were all like from the white perspective.
From Robert E. Lee.
Yeah, basically. Well, we're gonna get to that. Don't worry about that. I've got some more background for you. How about this one though? "Slave life was to them, slaves, a life of plenty, of simple pleasures, of food, clothes, and a good medical care."
I mean, let's just say, first of all, nobody was getting good medical care back in the day. They were just getting like limbs cut off.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Pre-Civil War, even after the Civil War, they were just cutting your arm off.
Oh yeah. And just gagging you, right? And just sawing away.
Here's a jar of gin. Drink this, and then we're gonna cut your arm off. That was essentially what you were getting back then.
I mean, it was like all the African American slaves were. Oh, it's Whipping Wednesday! Woohoo, guys, high-fiving each other.
It's free healthcare. You're getting. Actually, the blacks, they had it great back then. They could get healthcare for free.
They had free room and board.
It was amazing. No,
we got to cut welfare.
It makes you wonder though, like with quotes like that, like how the fuck does a pastor at any point in time, because he's not just been a pastor in the last like 4 years, he's been a pastor for well over 20 years. How does somebody have this written down and anyone goes, you know what, that's a great idea. Let's follow this guy.
This guy knows what he's talking about.
The idea like I'm just re-looking over this and just seeing like the words that stick out in my mind here and on the page is mutual intimacy and harmony. Harmony. Slavery in the United States, renownedly known for its harmony. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, it's everybody is like singing "Kumbaya" and just like this is awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck.
So this little thing that he wrote was co-authored by another guy. His name was Steve Wilkins, who was the former director of the League of the South.
I thought you were going to start talking about the guy from Jerry Springer, wasn't he? Steve, wasn't his last name Wilkins?
Wilkos.
Yeah.
Steve
I fucked
Wilkos.
up.
Yeah. He had a great show. Steve, little spinoff for him. He was because like he was just like the stage security.
Yeah,
like,
he was just one of the security guards, and then he ended up getting his own show.
How does that happen?
90s were a strange time, clearly, because we have guys saying that that it was pure harmony with slaves and their masters.
I can't believe it. Intimacy and harmony. Anyway, so Steve, to give you a flavor of who these fucking guys are, the League of South, they sued the U.S. federal government and tried to reclaim $5 billion to win reparations due to lost property to include human beings. So these people were like, yeah, you know what? Like the federal government came into the South, destroyed the South, thus destroying our slave economy and our farms. We want $5 billion.
And our slaves back.
Yeah, exactly. Steve kept some really good company. I want to bring up to speed on a guy by the name of Michael Hill, the founder of the League of the South. This dude was a professor at a historically black college in Alabama before he left the job in 1998. And since then, he's been a tour de force of hate. Like he is just spraying his venom at any group that is not white dudes. Wow. And some white women, but mostly he hates white women who are race traders. So like he's got a whole lot to say about that too. He made a post on the League of the South website, and I'm going to read it off to you. And it's going to get kind of colorful. We, Southern nationalists, do not want a race war or any sort of war. But if one is forced on us, we'll participate. Southern whites are geared up and armed to the teeth. So if, quote, Negroes think a race war in modern America would be to their advantage, they had better prepare themselves for a very rude awakening. White people may be patient, but your patience does have a limit. You do not want to test that limit. So, yeah.
Fuck these people.
Dude, it's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. It's so bad. So Doug is co-writing this piece about the South, in harmony and slavery. He's co-writing a piece with this guy who is the founder of this organization who, has guys like this as his treasure. Here's some more from this motherfucker. A race war in America would be a bad idea for Negroes. First of all, they would lose it and lose it badly. He is obsessed with the race war, by the way. Obsessed.
Well, when 2015 was this when it was? I mean, Negroes is a little bit of a dated term. I don't think that's appropriate.
A tiny bit. It's okay. I mean, we've moved on, but some people really respect the originals. You know what I mean? Like, play your A side. You know what I mean? Don't play the B sides. No one wants to hear that.
I'm surprised he didn't do like the hard R at the end. Like, I mean, it seems like kind of what he wants to do.
We have got several passages that that have been edited for family consumption. So to continue the quote, they make up only 13% of the population. Again, this was in 2015, but whatever. Not only would they be facing bad odds against whites, even excluding many whites, anti-whites, who would become ipso facto race traders at the outset of hostilities, but they would be opposed by a large percentage of Hispanic Latinos. Some numbers would be a big Negro negative.
A little NN there, huh?
Little alliteration on this guy. He's got a little bit of alliteration to him.
He's got a little bit of something in him.
Oh, he's touched. He's touched with hate. Yeah, he's a real
God.
Yeah.
Fuck. Like, this is hypothetical, but if you run into people like this in real life, how do you not just fight the urge? And I'm not a violent person, but I would just want to punch him in the face.
Yeah. 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 All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. I think the one factor that you haven't considered in your calculus here is that he is strapped to the gills with guns, and that would be a reason to not attack him. Because he'd shoot you right immediately. He would shoot you dead as fast as he could get rid of you.
Yes, you're right. All these guys are strapped, but it's just so, it's just crazy, man, that people are like this. And just out with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Open
and just, that's what we need to do.
And so what they do is they find a guy like Doug, who's this really intellectual guy. We're going to see a couple of clips of him later, some audio of him later, where you can tell he is a very intelligent man. He's not stupid. Okay, you know what? Stop that. I'm not going to say he's intelligent. What he's good with are words. He's really, really...
With the best words.
He does the best words. He's got the best words. But what they did was they found a guy who could bring this kind of shit to mainstream religion. And Doug is the Trojan horse for this kind of bullshit. Because what SBLC has kind of given this guy, Doug, and his buddy Steve, is one of the main drivers of the neo-Confederate movement. It's a reactionary, revisionist, white nationalist philosophy around what happened in the South. And Doug is one of these intellectual types who's helping to make this kind of thought more mainstream and over and over and over again.
Jeez.
Let's take a real quick break there. And when we come back, we're actually going to talk about a little bit more of the history of the neo-Confederate movement in our country and how Doug has helped to push it along even further than, you could ever think in 2024. You ready for that?
Oh, my God.
Yeah. All right. When we
I don't want it. I'm in the fetal position right now, guys.
I've got him draped with a warm blanket in a bottle as well. So, all right. We'll be right back. So, we're going to finish up with this neo-Confederate movement thing real quick before we move on to his views about LGBTQ people, which...
I bet you he's an ally.
Oh, absolutely. He loves the community. So Doug and Steve aren't the originators, though, of the neo-Confederate movement. They cribbed a lot of their thought from a chaplain in the Civil War. When you're going back to the Civil War to get your thoughts around, the neo-Confederate movement, probably not a good idea. This dude's name was Robert Dabney. The idea essentially being that the South was invaded by godless Northern scum, and that the fight with the Southern states was one tied to a religiously ordered society. The idea is commonly referred to as the lost cause myth by those of us who understand that the South was specifically fighting for the institution of slavery, that the South's desire to keep the institution in place. Doug and his ilk may not have explicitly been calling for secession from the Union or bringing back slavery, but his desire to wordsmith around calling slavery a net negative to society reflects, to me at least, that he stands firmly on the side of the League of the South in their positions. So that's where we'll leave that.
There's nothing shocking there.
Yeah, we'll leave it there with him in the South and his racism. Let's go ahead and talk about his fear of gay people.
It's an abomination.
To give you some background, we were like hanging out on the porch having a conversation, and I forget what my wife said or you said, something about like, oh, this person's depressed or something like that. And I was like, oh, let's go out into the garage and get depressed some more. And this is where it's going to take a really rough turn.
Oh, God, I thought we already got past that part.
No. It actually only gets worse. Doug did an interview regarding his views on hetero and homosexual relationships. It has to be said, Doug is a huge bigot and a masculinist as well. So if you think about like Cody, he does not think that men who aren't procreating with women are men, if you get my drift.
So if you don't have any kids,
You're less of a man if you don't have children, but if you aren't having sex with a woman for the purposes of reproduction, you're definitely not a man.
You're going to hell.
Yeah, well, there's that. So there's a lot of crossover, like I said. Here's the basic philosophy, Doug's basic philosophy on the matter.
Where do you see all of the LGBTQ, all of that stuff? Is that downstream of feminism, or is that a separate issue?
That's sort of the reductio ad absurdum of feminism. The thing you idolize.
Do you see what I mean when I'm talking about like someone who sounds smart? Like reducto ad absurdum. It sounds like a Harry Potter character, but
Wingardium Levioso.
Sure, yeah.
Is that a real word?
What?
Reducto.
Yeah, it's some like Latin phrase.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a terminology used in like I think logic classes a lot. Anyway. Mm-hmm.
Is the thing you lose. A wino, a drunkard, loses his ability to appreciate wine. A sex addict loses his ability to appreciate sexual activity. If a woman can be a girl boss, or she can be whatever she wants to be based on her decision, you can be anything you want to be. You can go anywhere you want to go. Okay? Well, if that's the rule, why can't I be a girl? And the disintegration of our culture is because we have enshrined individual choice as the central idol in every heart.
Where do you?
So hold on. So his point is that we can just kind of we have freedom to choose however we want to live our lives.
I mean,
and we're not following like his path of Christianity.
I was going to ask you, like, what the fuck do you think it even means?
I think that's what it sounded like.
Yeah, I just like it. To me, it just like. I don't know. When I first initially heard it, I was like, oh, he just does not care for, like, he thinks that this is a choice and that you can be cured of it, I guess.
Well, or just even comparing like a woman, wanting to be anything she wants to be to somebody that's just like, well, then I'm going to just, change my gender.
Right. How do those two things equal? They're not.
They don't.
Right. So you actually hit it right on the head. Doug thinks that being gay is a choice and that you could be healed from that sin, the sin of homosexuality, just like you could be healed from any sin. And he's got quite a few sins that he's going to forgive that you're going to wonder why. You would make these kind of connections. Like you said, a woman wanting to have her own opinion is the same as, being a
wino or a drunkard,
right? And being gay. Like, how are these things equal? Well, yeah, I don't know. He thinks that being gay is a bigger sin than slavery. In fact, actually, someone's sexual orientation is worse than slavery. Yeah. This is in part from an interview that he did. I believe this was written like an email correspondence between him and progressive churches that are trying to like get more information about him. Quote, do you believe that the capacity for procreation is essential to marriage? Doug says, yes. It is not essential for a marriage to occur or to exist, but openness to children is an essential part of the definition of marriage. Question, if so, what does this mean for infertile heterosexual couples? It means that God
hates you.
yeah, right? It means that God is the one who opens and closes the womb. This does not mean that every act of intercourse must result in a child. It means that healthy sexual expression is what I call liturgically open to fruitfulness. The most weird way of saying, like, yeah, I think that you should be having sex to have a child. Like, that's so weird. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I read that and I was just like, what is wrong with this guy? Again, he sees LGBTQ relationships and people within them as territory to be claimed, won over, ground to be gained in the holy war. Wilson noted this in The Statesman. This is the point of the conflict, he said. Why was the Duke of Ellington interested in Waterloo? It was because Napoleon was there. He's just doing this because this is where the action's at, I suppose. Doug wants to claim souls for Christ, and he sees the LGBTQ community as the ultimate end goal. Turn their gaze straight for God. You see, because like if you were to steal, like you could pay that sin back or like be forgiven of that sin by returning, the stolen good or admitting to it or doing jail time or something like that. Doug would say, well, if you're gay, like still marry a woman. And if you're going to have sex, make sure like this is something that actually happened.
Not in the butt. In
the church. This is something that actually happened. Definitely in the butt though. So I was watching a couple of pieces about this church, and it absolutely is a thing that he encourages gay men and gay women to marry the opposite sex. And if you are going to have sex, try to make it so that you guys are producing a child, even if you don't want to get married to it's like this like arranged marriage situation that even if you're gay, marry a straight person.
Yeah, it's conversion. It's doing conversion therapy to try to get people to be straight.
Yeah, you can atone for your sins just by marrying being in a heterosexual marriage, even if you're not heterosexual. Yeah, it's frustrating.
It is just it's crazy, and I mean clearly every major mental health organization says that conversion therapy is one of the worst things that you can do, and it makes people just it's really, really damaging.
But Doug said it works.
Oh, I mean, Doug can fucking kick rocks and play in 695. Piece of shit.
Yeah, he's a real piece of shit. Let's talk about his views on women. It would not surprise you to find out that Doug has antiquated views on his relationship between men and women. Think Cody, but a bit more intellectual sounding, like I said. The words are virtually the same, and Doug sounds a whole lot smarter than Cody, in part from a blog post that he wrote about women. When I say, quote, when I say that the one with the womb should make the babies, the response comes back that I do not apply this consistently. Why don't I say, for example, that the ones with hands should be making the sandwiches? A fuller answer will, God, it's so bad. A fuller answer will have to wait for my second analogy, the one about novels. So this is a quote that he was from another paragraph where he was talking about his worldview and analogies, and one of them was novels for some reason. I got really confused. I think that's part of the point, is to confuse people. So back to the quote, though. But for the present, I will just say that a woman's inner psychology is as uniquely configured as her womb is. Godly women want to feed their men. Godly women are designed to make the sandwiches. This is not an absolute law like the ones about making babies. There are times when a man fends for himself to make quite a decent sandwich. But in general scheme of things, the Apostle Paul wants women to make the sandwiches. In Titus 2-5, Paul is saying that the older women should be teaching the younger women to be something in Greek. I don't know what that word is. Can you try that?
Oikurgos? Oikurgos?
What's the one yogurt?
Oikos.
Oikos. We'll call it oikos.
Yeah.
Staying busy at the home. Keepers at home. That includes the sandwiches. And no, if a man and his wife go out on a lunch date and their sandwiches are made in the back by some minimum wage male, nobody is sinning.
What?
Exactly, Sergio. What the fuck is this guy talking about?
So it's a sin if the wife isn't making him food, but if they're out to dinner and it's some, let's just say, immigrant making it.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
But that immigrant needs to go back to where they came from.
Most certainly. He absolutely believes in that. He has from the same blog post, he has this to say in part about men. A man who really wants a woman is a man who also wants a lawn to mow, bills to pay, curtain rods to hang, a van to buy, car seats to install, meals to share, and let us not forget to include this: lots of good times in bed. He should want everything on that list and quite a bit more. So that sex, silence, and sandwiches, it's just astounding to me.
Yeah, and it's written a little bit differently. Not straight to the point like Cody was, but
yeah, I actually almost prefer the way that Cody says it, because it's, at least I know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, he's clear. Like, I expect this from my women. Yeah. I think maybe that's kind of the appeal behind Trump, is because he just says it. And Cody is just saying it. Like, I want you to shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear about your problems. Make me food, have sex with me, and leave me alone. And like, this guy, Doug, is like, he's talking around the fucking mulberry bush, but he's saying the same thing.
Well, and he's trying to justify it by quoting the Bible.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like Ronald Reagan, like talking about welfare moms. Like Trump is just like, no, fuck these people. Get them out of here. We're going to just defund the entire thing. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Like Trump at least is just saying like, yeah, no, all the racist things you wanted to have happen in the 80s and the 90s and well before that too. Yeah, I want it too. Let's fucking do it. Like
the biggest deportation ever, mass deportation ever in the history of the United States.
Yeah. I just, oh God, these people, they're frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. More from Doug. All that said, will there be times when a wife is tempted to think that her husband is taking her body for granted? Yes, of course. There will be times when he probably is. But this is a fallen world. And there will probably also be times when he, up on the top of a telephone pole in 28 degrees of weather, thinks that she is taking his body for granted. Look, things are tough all over. In a godly marriage, a man and a woman should used and be used. Gladly, responsibly, sacrificially, and lovingly. That's the whole point.
Stop quoting Doug, man. Fuck him. I hate Doug.
Let me ask you, do you expect to be used by your wife? And do you use your wife like just a tool to be used?
Yeah, I mean, kind of. No. Of course not.
No, of course not, because you're not a fucking psychopath.
No.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So Doug later lays out in that piece that men are created for a mission and that women are created to support the missionary. That our sphere should only
the missionary.
Yeah. Yeah. And he says that too. That our marital sex is the only like value sphere that's supposed to like kind of intersect. It seems like everything that I've read, at least. And I haven't read a whole lot about Doug's stuff because again, it's really confusing just because he uses words that are just filler.
He just uses words.
Yeah, he uses the best words. So here's your child abuse warning. If you are listening and you're sensitive to it, just this is your warning that it's coming. So last thing on Doug and his church fiefdom that he's trying to build out. Turns out that it's riddled with pedophiles and perverts. In 2021, a deacon under his supervision was found guilty on charges of child pornography. A 12-year-old was littered through his phone. Just gross. Wilson and the church leaders put Alex Lloyd, the offender, under church discipline, basically meaning that they were going to handle the matter internally. He was charged and arrested before this, but the discipline was going to be doled out by the church leadership. Wilson informed the congregation on the matter, and he was still allowed to attend church services under the supervision from a church chaperone. Wilson said that Lloyd reached out to the church for their forgiveness, and they extended that forgiveness, with Wilson stating that the pornification of the nation is partly to blame for the ills of the man who was arrested for child porn on his phone.
Not my fault.
You know.
It's a pornification.
It's the pornification. Let's not blame the middle-aged white dude with 12-year-old kiddie porn on his phone, you know?
No.
Wilson, as you can probably imagine, would be all too quick to blame a young black man, though, who has zero economic opportunities in his community for turning to dealing drugs. I imagine he wouldn't give the same amount of grace to a systematic issue in our country, the offshoring of jobs, billionaires eliminating entire departments so they can, make the stockholders happier with higher and higher returns. I can't imagine that he would be upset about that or allow that kind of grace, rather, to be extended to that person. But the pervert that's in his own community, because he believes in Jesus and he believes that once you give the forgiveness, everything's forgiven.
Got it. I mean, it's not surprising because it happens in all major institutions.
Sure, yeah. Like, he's not unique in this. But like Hollywood, P. Diddy, for instance. Like, this is not unique. But let's call a spade here. Like, you're extending grace to a pedophile pervert, but I can't imagine that he's doing that same thing for the person who's dealing with houselessness in Moscow.
Or people questioning their sexuality or their
Right.
gender, or women and their bodies, and
Right.
whether they're going to live or die, or being able to choose whether they want to carry a child to term.
Yeah. You're spot on.
Which would, result if the woman made the choice to terminate it, then she is going to hell.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's not make it so that, she feels, one, safe to make that decision that she wants to make for herself, or two, if she did want to make a decision around adoption as an option, make it so that the world that child would come into isn't going to be complete shit and be completely unsupported after the child goes into a foster situation. Anyway, let's talk about a guy by the name of Steven Sittler. In 2005, he crawled into a child's bed during a sleepover and touched all of the children inappropriately, resulting in the child reporting the incident to their father. The father, a member of Christ Church in Moscow, doesn't report it to the police, but instead confronts Steven directly and then reports the sexual assault to Doug. When Doug finds out about this horrific crime against a child, he invited the guy to fucking stay at his home instead of taking him to the police and reporting him on the crime. So he hid the motherfucker in his home. Eventually, the parents of the child file a complaint with the authorities, and Steven enters a plea of guilty. The initial incident happened in March, but the report provided wasn't until September.
Wow.
Doug had this guy in his place for a really good period of time. 1 minute's too long to have somebody like that in your home and not take him to the cops immediately. Eventually, like I said, the parents do file that complaint. So Steven ends up in jail with a life sentence. But don't get too excited, because he gets off in 20 months. 6 weeks later, though, he gets arrested again, this time for voyeurism. Steven was diagnosed by his therapist as a fixated pedophile, meaning he regularly fantasized about assaulting children. All of this was made known to Doug. Doug knew about all of this while it was happening. After he got released, he knew about the voyeurism thing.
So do you think with Doug, do you think that this is like almost a security complex, that he can pray away this guy's sins and get him to, see the light of God and do that stuff? Or do you think this is a good buddy of mine, I got to do everything I can to protect him?
I think it's a little bit of old boys club mixed with like the idea that anyone can be redeemed. It doesn't matter what you did before, you've asked for the Lord's forgiveness. Kind of think of like Donald Trump and like the Christians who vote for Trump. They're like, oh, well, how could I vote? How could you vote for a philanderer, a con man, a guy who's cheated on his wife while the wife was giving birth on how can you vote for a guy who wanted to overthrow the government? And they're like, well, the Lord's forgiven everybody. The Lord can forgive anybody. The Lord can change anyone's heart.
Well, and he'll get rid of Roe versus Wade.
Right. And this is the kind of guy who that same kind of logic applies to, I think, which is like, oh yeah, well, the Lord's forgiven him because he asked for forgiveness, so we should forgive him too. Again, it's this low bar. Like, you're almost absolving yourself of any responsibility by operating like that. Like, oh, well, I gave it to the Lord, so now if the Lord forgives him, I have to forgive him too, and so we have to move on, instead of holding him accountable.
But again, it goes back to your point of just selectively, forgiving people because there's unforgivable sins within this church and with the seniority leaders of it.
Yeah, it's disgusting. So, pardon me, even some more from this article. Even with this knowledge and having shared it with the congregation, Doug, along with another church elder by the name of Ed Iverson, set Steve up with a 23-year-old girl by the name of Katie Travis. And Doug, knowing full well that this man, Steven, had a serious affliction of pedophilia, one that was told to him, one which landed him in jail twice, he married them. Doug had this to say about the marriage. Much has been made about the fact that Christ Church approved of Steve's wedding to Katie through the fact that I officiated at the wedding. First, it should be noted that in our community, weddings are not arranged or determined by the church. That's a non-answer. about you marrying off a pedophile to a 23-year-old girl.
It's not arranged marriage.
Right. Yeah, that's not arranged at all.
There's nothing wrong with him. He's married to a woman now.
Right.
And now he won't need to be a pedophile anymore.
Right. Yeah. He absolves himself. That's all he's doing there. He's like, yeah, we didn't do it. You know,
no, we're helping him out. He's married now. He's good.
He asked if we knew a woman, and we just kind of set him up, and we arranged it for him. Mm-hmm. And then we we decided to pay for the wedding and all the other stuff. We arranged all of it.
Yeah.
no arrangements at all.
No.
So 5 years later, Katie gives birth to their first child. 1 month later, Stephen would fail multiple lie detector tests to his parole officer, and the parole officer would note that Steve would struggle with his thoughts regarding his own son. Mm. But I suppose this is how you make a college town more like a Christian microstate, is allowing for people like this to continue to exist in your congregation. Doug is dangerous. His ideas are dangerous, and clearly his flock isn't as dedicated as he would like them to be. I wonder what Moscow, Idaho would look like if he were to wall it off from the rest of the world, creating his own religious kingdom. Are they riddled with perverts and pedophiles? Are they, scamming money off of people? Are they selling gold watches with Trump's face on it to anybody who comes through the door? Like, what does it look like for Doug?
Well, are you asking me that?
Yeah,
I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
I think it's a way for him to push his agenda, his religious beliefs, and try to make it as big as it possibly can, and to expand from where it's like a form of expansionism, right?
Sure.
And your manifest destiny of converting all these souls and getting people to believe, so that you have all. I mean, it sounds like with all of these guys, just straight power. People want power.
Yeah.
They want people to believe. They want to be the big dog in charge, and have all these aspects and controls over other people's lives, and tell them what's the right way and what's the wrong way to live.
Yeah.
And make sure that it aligns with what I'm telling you it should align with.
Yeah. It's like, how do I create my own little kingdom, and everybody in it, I'm the king, and everybody in it just serves me and to my purposes and to my end, and what I tell them goes. And
it's almost like The Godfather, like people coming in and kissing his ring.
Yeah.
Just like getting permission to do, whatever they need to do.
Well, hey, check it. I think that, this has been a darker episode. I don't know that we've had a necessarily light episode yet, but maybe one day that'll happen.
Yeah. Well, we can always, find something good. No, maybe not in this.
Not in this one.
But at least we can make each other laugh.
But so it's a good one. It's a jam. It's a jam, bro. It's a jam.
I love me some sisters with voices.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, SWV. So listeners, as always, thank you for listening. You know that you can always, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about the email address anymore, because fuck it. I'm not reading the email. If you want to, you can reach out to us on Twitter, though, at The Extremes Pod. Make sure you go to vote.gov, register, vote, and vote in your best interest. And your best interest is not for fascists, just so you know. Till next time, beloved.
Act accordingly.
There you go.
And educate yourself, bro.
Or appropriately. I'm just going to let this play out. We'll be right